my name is Stephanie. It's my third year here at the WFP Innovation Accelerator. I work at the SDG acceleration team, so we usually don't work with hunger, but with other exciting SDGs such as health or environment. I have been coaching a lot of teams on impact measurement, and when I started at the accelerator, there was really no materials on how to coach on impact measurement. So I started to develop some materials in the plenary, and then at some point, Beth came into our team, and she really took that whole topic of impact measurement to the next level.
I'm Beth. So I'm also in the SDG acceleration team. So this is the first step towards impact, because this is what your impact is, right? So all impact is the change that your innovation makes. And we're going to first talk about impact mapping, which is creating a strategy that gets you from where you are now and what you're doing to that impact that you want to create. And really creating a strategy where everything you do is focused on getting to that impact in the leanest way possible. And the tool that we use to do this is the theory of change. So the theory of change is really just doing that. It's mapping your inputs and your activities to your outputs, outcomes, and impacts to make sure that everything you're doing is connected to your impact. So we start with our inputs, which are the resources your venture uses, and then the activities, which are the practical things your venture does with those resources, your outputs, which are the direct consequences, and then your outcomes. And this should be a chain. So from the direct consequences, what happens? And that's your medium-term social, behavioral, or economic results. And then how does that lead to your impact, which is what you put at the beginning. But what is best to do is think about a chain. So we go from, so this is a school feeding example, which is something we do at WFP, where we go into schools and provide school meals in impoverished communities. And the inputs for that would be, cooks, kitchen equipment, ingredients, so all the resources and the human resources that you need. Your activities are here making meals for school children. Then the outputs, that direct consequence of making meals for school children is that school children are well fed. But then we want to go further. What happens if school children are well fed? Well, they're able to focus better in lessons. And what happens if children are able to focus better in lessons? Well, they have improved educational outcomes. So the impact here is improved educational outcomes, and we can see a strong chain going from the inputs to that improved educational outcome. Now, in reality, theory of changes are going to be a bit more complicated. Yours will probably have multiple chains. Even this one could have multiple chains. So we could go from school children being well fed to reduced malnutrition within the school children population. And then we could go to impact of just having a healthier population. So there can be multiple chains within a theory of change. When you're doing this, what you want to look out for is floating activities or impacts. And by floating activities or impacts, I mean things that are in your theory of change, but they're not connected in a chain. So if you have an activity that doesn't link to an output, outcome, or impact, then you'd want to think, why am I doing that activity? Is it something I can cut out? Do I need to be doing it? If it's not impacting, if it's not creating impact, why are we doing it? So it might be that it does fit in, it might be that it's useful, but it would be a good chance to look at that activity and see whether you should be doing it. The other thing is if you have a floating impact, that's something that your activities aren't actually working towards. So you might want to rethink if that is your impact that you're trying to have, or if it's something else that you actually are working towards. So that's how the theory of change can really help you just streamline your strategy. The other thing it does is allow you to communicate your impact really well, because it makes you have a full answer to the question of what you're doing and why you're doing it, which means it's really useful when you're pitching and communicating. So the next thing is measuring impact. And this is where you can lose people, because everyone is fine with mapping their impact and strategizing for impact. But measuring impact can be expensive and it can take time. So there's two big things in this, which is accountability. And that is important. It's what everyone kind of knows, that if you get a grant or if someone supports you, you're going to have to be accountable to them and show that you are doing what you do and show that what you're saying is happening. But the other one is learning. And I think often we can push learning to the side. We kind of spend a lot of time getting these metrics and thinking about getting them and sending them off, and we don't actually engage with the data. And I think for an early stage startup or any stage really, this is the most valuable part of an impact framework, that you're able to see where things are going well, where things are going badly, and adapt to that data. Because that means that you can change your theory of change, you can change your strategy before you fail. And that's going to take less time, less money, and also de-risk your venture.
Can you actually be sure that you are the one creating that change? I mean, how do you know that not something else has created that change? Yeah. So I would like to introduce you to one important concept that we want to pass on to you today. It's called attribution factors. Attribution factors are all the different factors that could potentially influence the impact you're creating, right? From our side, we just want to pass on to you to look into these attribution factors and also to be open about it when you outlay your theory of change and get realistic indicators. And then a lot of teams ask us, okay, yeah, we are an early stage team, but what level of evidence is actually realistic for your team? And you can also start comparing data over time and then go back to your theory of change to see if it's actually proven to be true based on your data. Number one is we ask you to develop a theory of change today, and we think it's an excellent tool. You will learn a lot while you do it. And then we just ask you to please not let it die in the shelf in the next months, but take it out again and make sure your theory holds and test it with data. The second one is to really keep at the start your impact measurement light and inexpensive. Many times we talk to teams, they want to buy an impact measurement system, they want to buy this new app, and they want to invest a lot of money. And we say, please don't go into that temptation before you have your basics right. Yeah. At the start, really focus on providing some kind of evidence, but don't go crazy. And then the next one is this big break on statistical significance. Beth and I work with a lot of academic teams with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they're always saying, but is that going to hold? Do we have a bias here, etc.? And we're telling them, well, at the moment, you're not writing a PhD, you're testing a solution. So the motto should be, some data is typically better than no data. So please take that with you. And the last one that was actually added by Beth, which I really like, is engage with your data. So don't just collect the data for the sake of reporting, but try to understand why are the numbers like this and try to learn from it.